later. Real excited about that. Let me make sure we're going here. Okay, cool. All right, so August 23rd, 2011, I want to read a few pieces of this New York Times article. It was entitled, "A Returning Soldier Answers the Inevitable Question, Why?" So listen to this. Why would anyone want to go back to IEDs, rockets, machine guns, explosions in the middle of the night, long hours, brutal desert sun, icy winter winds, long marches under heavy packs, endless hours of boredom, pointless work details, angry locals, children with outstretched arms begging for water, crappy food, no sleep, sand in every crevice, overbearing officers, messed up paperwork, missed birthdays, missed graduations, missed parties, lost jobs, failed businesses, lost opportunity, broken hearts, unemployment, alcoholism, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder, among other things. How, when faced with the choice to deploy again or get out and live a comparatively soft civilian life with all of the comforts that most of us enjoy, nothing wrong with that, the civilian life that we enjoy here, how does a veteran choose the former? Why do you want to go back? This Army Ranger, Special Forces, was asked. He said this, "It's about knowing that I traded another year of my prime to go stand and face hardship and the enemy like a man, faithful not in politics or policy, but in God and the infantrymen in my platoon. It is about trying to be something more than what our culture tells us is important or cool. It's about doing something of consequence, if not on the political level, then on the personal. It's about," listen to this, this is what he said, "it's about standing alongside, serving with, and leading some of the greatest men that I will ever know, men to whom words like honor, brotherhood, and duty are said without snickering, irony, or shame." Excuse me, I don't want to trip over that guy. "For that soldier, risking everything was about living on mission together with his army brothers. For us as the church with a capital C, but specifically for Restoration Church, we're risking everything to live on mission to join God in the restoration of all things. If there's ever a cause or a mission that's worth risking it all, it's the mission that God's calling us to. We're joining God in the restoration of all things together. To bless our neighborhoods, our cities, and the world together. Imagine a soldier trying to win a battle by himself, let alone a war. If we are going to join God, if we're going to actually join God in seeing anything restored, Pastor Rod said, I don't know, it was like last year, when we felt like God was leading us to this mission statement, joining God in the restoration of all things, he said, well, something like, we got to start with some little things, like we're seeing some little things restored, seeing a few, maybe it was a few things, right? So if we're going to start by seeing a few things restored, maybe a few families, a little bit of difference in a neighborhood, a little bit of difference in a community, we can't do it alone. We have to do it together. We're not created to live life with God alone or cuddled in a safe enclave. That doesn't mean it's not okay to be in a safe enclave here and there, but we were created to live on mission together. This is not just a good idea. Like, it's kind of a good idea, right? Like, we went on this bike ride, the Tour de Cookie, a couple weeks ago. It was good not to be alone, right, Will? When half his pedal and crank fell off, it was really good that Jeff and I were there to flag down the van to get the tool to get his bike back together, right? It's not just a good idea to go out into neighborhoods, to bless the neighborhoods together, to help, not to help, but to join in the restoration of families, singles, whatever. It's not just a good idea to do that together, but it's God's idea. Living on mission together is central to our strategy here at Restoration Church. Last week, Pastor Rod introduced the ABCs. I don't want to insult anyone's intellect, and I'm big on education, right? Somehow they let me get some degrees and all that. But I like it on the bottom shelf. Like, just give me the ABCs. So it's really all about three things. ABCs. Accountability to the mission. Not just accountability, but accountability that we're living on mission, those who commit to it. B, a sense of belonging on mission. Like we belong on this. Some of you know people, or maybe you've even felt this way in the past. Like, how could God use me? I don't belong. Like that Army Ranger went through some big time training to get there. I mean, it's intense, right? So there's a sense in which he got through this training and he belonged. You belong just as much on the mission field together with us. Not because of anything you do or don't do, but because you put your faith in Jesus, and that unites us as a new family. And now we belong. So A, accountability to the mission. B, a sense of belonging to the mission. And C, care. Man, we got to care for each other along this mission, because we love the metaphor. I don't know, Anthony came up with it or somebody. Glad to see you, by the way, this morning. Anthony was not feeling well earlier. But I just totally forgot what I was going to say. Something about care, right? I totally forgot what I was going to say. But that's important, right? That we care for one another along the way, because it is difficult. You know, and I don't want to break anybody's trust, but just inside this room over the last several months, we've carried each other. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. The metaphor, right? The metaphor that we love, that someone came up with. I'd love to give him credit. We'll just give Anthony credit because he's one of the smarter guys in the room. We like to see ourselves as an emergency room. And I can say, hey, I'm over here, man. I'm in triage. I'm getting bandaged up. I'm not bleeding out anymore. I'm going to make it. And I'm just calling my neighbors and my coworkers and my family. Hey, the emergency room's over here. You know, I'm not up on the penthouse kicking back at the pool, sipping martinis. Like, that's okay every once in a while, but that's not the Christian life, right? The Christian life is, man, I'm in the emergency room. I was bleeding out. I'm bandaged up. Jesus is restoring me. And we want everybody we possibly can meet and know to be in the emergency room too. From the very beginning, Jesus' teaching and ministry, he emphasized living on mission together. And this passage that we're going to talk about from Matthew chapter 5 may not be what you would think of in this context, but I'm going to show you why I chose this. So Matthew chapter 5, Jesus is basically talking about kingdom people and the way that kingdom people live. Good news. I love, Pastor Rod likes to say this all the time. We're good news people. We bring good news because we are present in the neighborhood. There's good news in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is blessed because we're there. And so Jesus is talking to good news people when he says this. This is really at the very beginning of one of the very first messages, the teaching of Jesus. And he says this, and I'm going to give you the down south Georgia translation, if y'all can bear with me. I know not everybody in the room understands that, but I'm going to walk you through it. So this is what he says. Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, he says, you, and here's the down south Georgia translation of you right here. Y'all. Okay, Michael's going to West Virginia. Some folks down there say y'all. Everybody say y'all. Y'all. So how many people are y'all? What's that?
More than one.
What? No, more than one. Yeah, more than one. More than one, right? So in English it says you, but really it's plural. So he's saying, hey y'all. All right, hey y'all. Y'all are the light of the world. Okay. Now you can see from a Western, especially American point of view, how Americans and Westerners tend to, oh, I'm the light of the world. See, if I think I'm the light of the world, but he's saying, hey, y'all, the community is the light of the world. Listen, and this is so clear from the metaphor that Jesus uses. So you can know I'm not making this up. Notice what he says. A town, not a house. A town built on a hill can't be hidden, right? I love how Jesus is like ABCs. This is real simple to get, right? This is clear. A town that's up on a hill is not hidden, right? Can y'all believe that so far? All right, you're with it. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. You don't light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house in the same way. So in the same way, as you can't hide a city, you can't hide a light. In the same way, and here's where it gets a little deeper in Southern vernacular. Now Jesus says, all y'all. So y'all is more than one. But all y'all is how many? Another way to say it would be everyone, right? In the same way, let all y'all's light shine before others, that they may see all y'all's good deeds and glorify all y'all's Father in heaven. So if we are the good news people, we are that light, and we cannot be, it can't be hidden. There's something about we. There's something about all y'all. So all y'all come to this children's meeting next week so we can get some of these things straightened out. See how that just flowed right together. All right, so as the people of God, we reflect the light of Jesus. So obviously, Jesus isn't talking about literal light, right? Obviously, it's just he's using a metaphor. He's talking about shining. And he says, in the same way, let your light shine where? Not under a lamp, not in a closet, right? Because a city that's up on a hill is not in secret. So we could say, even though Jesus isn't directly talking to the church, he's just talking to kingdom people at this point. We don't have the church yet when he says this. But the church then is that light, that city on a hill. Even though Ronald Reagan said it was the United States, no. It's the church. Wherever the church is. And Jesus said this way before the United States existed, right? Okay. Just want to be clear about that. Politics aside. It is the presence of Jesus in and through us that shines. And I love this in Ephesians 5:8. Welcome, welcome, welcome. In Ephesians 5:8, the Apostle Paul said, you were once darkness, but now you're light. And so he's like, now you are a good news person. Now you can't be hidden anymore. We can't stuff you up under a bucket. We can't put you under a bucket and hide your light. And even there in Paul, in Ephesians chapter 5, Paul's using the Southern version as well with y'all. So where do we see light? If we walk outside in the sun, in the sun, now you have to use some faith because it's not sunny today. But even if you went out today, if I had a flashlight, I should have brought one. If I had a flashlight, would you be able to see it? Technically, as Bernard reminded me, technically yes. I mean, if it's faced toward you, you could see it, right? But it wouldn't be very effective. If you squint, maybe you could see it. You wouldn't be able to see it very well. Flashlights and candles shine where? Thank you, Jude. Thank you. How old are you, Jude? 7. We want to keep this at least on a 7-year-old level right here. Flashlights and candles shine in the dark, right? And while one candle can help us, right? Lots of candles can light up a stadium. Has anyone seen the movie Woodlawn? Highly recommend it. If you're a football fan, especially if you're from Alabama, it is a true story about like segregation down in Alabama. The largest high school football game in history in the U.S. was this one football game in like 1971 or something like that. And there were like 45,000 people that came out to see this guy. He was an African-American guy that kind of broke the barrier at this high school. And there was this huge revival. And what happened was, before the game, like a week before the game, they had, like, God was just doing these miraculous things in the school. And they had this rally. And the manager, whatever, the football team, came out and literally, God was just doing something where hundreds of students came and heard the gospel. And they responded. And what they did is they were in the stadium. It was actually the night before the game. And they used this illustration. They all had candles. And he talked about how one candle, you can see it. But once everybody in the stadium had a candle, I mean, it lit up the stadium so much to where the fire department was called because people in the community thought that the stadium was on fire. True story. What are people in downtown Crown going to say as they begin to see lives being restored, people with a renewed sense of purpose, people in restored relationships between husbands and wives, parents and children, co-workers with one another, businesses who are not just about the bottom dollar anymore, but about the community, about seeing restoration of the community. That's what our community groups are all about, shining as bright lights together in the darkness of our neighborhoods and networks, living on mission together right here in Gaithersburg, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, and in the networks that we navigate on a daily basis. So what does this actually mean? I want to read a quote from a guy named Alan Hirsch. He was one of my profs in seminary. He also wrote a book and has done some teaching in some things that Pastor Bernard and Pastor Rod and I have been a part of, and it's been helping really shape the way we understand church. Here's what Alan said in his book, The Forgotten Ways. If evangelizing and discipling the nations, which is the last words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 28, if the evangelizing and discipling the nations lies at the heart of the church's purpose in the world, then it's mission and not ministry. It's mission. Everybody say mission. Mission. Okay, that was good. It's mission that is the true organizing principle of the church. Mission is being used here in a narrow sense to suggest the church's orientation toward outsiders, and ministry as the orientation toward insiders. Now, very important caveat. That all that means is that there are people who are not connected to the church, and there are people that are connected in the church. This is not to say, oh, those crazy outsiders out there, we're the insiders. That's not the way he's using the term. Does that make sense? He's just simply saying there are people that are not connected to a church. They don't have a relationship with God. Maybe they do, but they're not connected to the church. And there are people that are. That's us, right? So it's very important that we use those terms correctly, not as if we're looking down on people because they're outsiders or judging other people. Experience tells us, Alan says, that a church that aims at ministry seldom gets to mission, even if it sincerely desires to do so. But the church that aims at mission will have to do ministry. The church that is aiming to influence and befriend and bless people that are outside the church has to have the ministry inside the church, because that's what fuels out there. We take care of out there and trust that God's going to take care of in here, Pastor Bernard said last week. The shift from orienting around ministry to orienting around mission is massive, and it's difficult for us. It's difficult for me. It's a huge challenge. We're a long way from being perfect. I love the way Bernard says this. We're a long way from perfect, but we're seeking to make progress as a church. And I feel like we are making progress. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not predictable. And that's where it's a challenge in the suburbs, because we like life in the suburbs to be a little more predictable, a little easier, don't we? But we don't see any other way for us. We must orient our lives, our community groups, and our church around the mission of Jesus. This is a quote from Pastor Bernard last week. He said this: I can tell you the moment that when my previous community group became truly authentic. We became truly authentic when we all decided that it wasn't just about coming into someone's home and doing a Bible study, praying, and then going our way. Nothing wrong with those things in and of themselves. We became a truly authentic community group when we decided that it's time for us to live on mission. That it was time to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be and give a voice to the poor, widowed, and orphaned. When you drive around this area, you might think, like a police officer friend of mine that I interviewed the other week, hey, there's no poor, widowed, or orphan. Things kind of seem okay in my neighborhood. I recently learned from this police officer that the high school closest to my house, Northwest High School, between 40 and 50% of the students are on free meal programs. It's like one of the wealthiest places in the whole country, beautiful neighborhoods all around, all surrounding the high school, and up to half the school is on reduced or free meal programs, rather. Things are not okay. People are struggling all around us, and it's just not okay for us, my family, for us as a church, to sit on the sidelines and watch. It's not okay. Living on mission together is core to overcome what Alan Hirsch says, and Pastor Bernard said this morning, our instincts to huddle and cuddle. That doesn't mean we don't come together and huddle and cuddle. But what do you do at the end of the huddle in a football game? Break. On two, ready? Break. And then, man, we line up and we do battle, right? And get ready for the football illustrations, because July starts football season. So anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. We got to wrap it up, but I want to, let's, YBH, okay? What does YBH mean? Thanks, my wife knew that. Jude, do you know what that means? Come on, give me, oh, okay. Yes, but how? Okay, repeat that. Yes, but. So you always, whenever you hear a preacher, teacher talking about, well, but yes, but how? Mission or blessing our neighborhoods and networks happens in 3 environments here at Restoration Church. As a church, Bernard talked about our partnership with Manna. We want to see that grow. We want to see kids fed at the very least. We're doing that as a church. The second environment is in and through our community groups. Things kind of like the Tour de Cookie. We kind of all did that together, but it was really kind of a community group thing. And then personally, as a single person or as a family, to bless your neighborhood. And that might be like Laura and I are volunteering in our kids' schools with greater frequency and blessing the school system. There are 2 things we want to emphasize in all 3. Okay? Serving and celebrating. Everybody say serving. Yeah, we should serve, right? We're a church. We should serve. Everybody say celebrating. Yeah, see, the church doesn't do that very well. Last week, Pastor B talked about serving. He encouraged us to prayerfully look out in the neighborhood, find ways, needs, things that we can serve, and let your community group leader know. And let's prayerfully consider how we can serve in a greater way. Today, I want us to think in this last minute that we have about celebrating. Celebrating. The first miracle of Jesus and the miracle that he used to launch his public ministry was what? Turning water into wine where? At a wedding celebration. Now, some people know me as Wedding Pastor Ed, okay? I do lots of weddings. This was the only Saturday I'm not doing a wedding or on vacation between now and September. And I can tell you, I say to families all the time, if there's ever a time to celebrate, this is it, right? And hopefully, each year on your anniversary, you keep celebrating like that too, right? It's a great time to celebrate. Jesus is right in the middle of the celebration. As a matter of fact, the celebration, I almost said, I won't try to be cool or say something that my son might say, but it's hopping, man. The party is going so much so they ran out of wine. Think about what kind of party was going on. Like, I have never been to a wedding reception yet where the wine ran out. And Jesus is like, actually, Jesus' mom. Hey, take care, do whatever he says, you know. And Jesus said, hey, just bring me a couple pictures. We're going to fix this, you know. And it wasn't, barefoot wine. It was like, man, I went to this little Italian place over in off 28. If you're about Italian food, man, we got some fresh pasta in there. They're doing a little wine tasting in there. I bought the most expensive bottle of wine I've ever bought. You're gonna laugh, but I mean, it was like $20, man. $20 bottle of wine. I was just sold, man. I had a little sip of it, and I was like, oh, I got to go home with that. That's good. She's showing me a map in Italy of where the grapes are from. Like, that means anything to me. I have no idea. They might as well be from Frederick. I don't know. But Jesus was about celebrating. Here's the take-home challenge, y'all. Here's the take-home challenge, and we'll be done. Next weekend is Memorial Day. It's a huge celebration in this country as we think about those who gave their whole life for the mission, for living on mission together. And I know many of you are not from this country or whatever, but that's what Memorial Day is all about. It's just a time where we celebrate. It has a lot to do with cooking hot dogs and drinking beer, actually. But what we're really celebrating is that. On Saturday, the Benders are hosting an event. Real quick. Pastor Rod's busy. Annie, where's Annie? Just real quick, tell us about Saturday. You're all invited.
Saturday, we're hosting an event at our community. It's to celebrate Memorial Day, but also a pool opening for our community at Hidden Creek Apartments. And it's from 1 to 5-ish, I guess.
And what will be there?
Hamburgers, hot dogs, drinks.
Is there music?
Cool, DJ.
DJ. A great party at the Bender. So everybody go, bless the neighborhood. On Monday, 5 o'clock at our house, we're having a block party. We're inviting all of our neighbors. We're going to have tables set out, a grill. We just bought a fire pit. Come and join us. Attend one or both events and or host your own event and invite your neighbors and bless your neighborhood. It isn't about, are you good at this? Can you do that? Just join in something. Last thing I want to share, inspired by Kristen's mom during a neighborhood bonfire last Christmas, Laura and I, what we're going to do this summer is we're going to host Sunday evening drinks and dessert. Everybody likes drinks and dessert. Everybody likes drinks. Doesn't matter what kind of drink or what kind of dessert. We're going to do s'mores and stuff like that. But we're going to do that every Sunday night at our house throughout the summer. It will be simple. It could just be frozen pops and water, bottled water. That's all you need, right? You all are welcome to join us and just see what God does. We don't know what God's going to do. Then we will launch you out into your community. We'll show you what we're doing. We'll experiment together, and then we'll bless you to do it in your neighborhood or just keep hanging out in our neighborhood. And from there, we will see Restoration Church community groups blessing neighborhoods, serving and celebrating as bright lights all over this community. Just imagine with me the impact that God is going to make, the restoration of lives, the restoration of kids, students, young single adults, young families, old families, retired folks, the poor, the marginalized, the broken, the widows and orphans, as we live on mission together. Let's commit to making this shift as we take care of out there and trust that God will ensure that everything will be taken care of right here. I'm going to pray, and then Pastor Rod is going to come up and help us learn how to bless the neighborhood a little bit more. Pray with me.